You're taking time out in the no-flop zone, featuring Joey Wright and myself, Boti Nagy. We're going to be talking about some interesting things here coming up. Illawarra, Cairns, Tasmania, Brisbane. If you're fans of those teams, stick around for the early part. Then we're going to be looking at top 5 coaches at the moment as they stand. Joey's going to be assessing them next week. That's part 1. Next week in part 2, we'll do the other 5 coaches. And then we asked for readers' topics, and your readers have come up with a whole bunch of things that we're going to go through. So we hope you enjoy that. All of this is being brought to you by our good friends at 1946 Distilling. There's still a few bottles left from the other show that we haven't polished off. we highly recommend them. Joey, I want to start with a comment that I saw that said that Illawarra was complacent when it went up to Cairns and lost. Mm-hmm. Did you feel that?
I think people underestimate that trip to Cairns, first of all. That trip to Cairns is the hardest trip in the league, especially, flying from Adelaide. You fly in, it takes you 2 hours to get to Brisbane. You wait another 2 hours, then you hop on a plane for an hour and a half to Cairns. It's a tough trip. The weather change up there is, usually something that influences. So I don't think Illawarra was complacent at all. They came out and played hard. Cairns got a good team. They've just been injured. And they're well coached.
That's how I felt. I thought it was just a sort of a knee-jerk analysis, like, they were complacent. They got beaten by Cairns in Wollongong only a couple of weeks earlier.
Exactly.
So I reckon they went up there.
I think they're a bit complacent in that one. I do think they were a bit complacent in that one. They decided to play in the second half of that one. But this game, they went up there right from the jump, and they played some good ball, and they just got beat by a better team that night.
Do you agree that there are some teams that you encounter, and you probably did this as a player and certainly as a coach, where you feel you've got another team's number? Doesn't matter if that's the top team or it's 4th place, but there's one team that you can nail. You feel you match up well and you own them, because I think that's how Cairns feels about Illawarra. And when they're at full strength, I think they feel that way about Melbourne too.
Yeah, they do. They've had a great run in Melbourne for years, not just recently, but the last couple of years. I definitely think matchups, when we underestimate matchups, if you get a point guard that you can exploit, and that point guard is really, really good for that team, but you can exploit them on the other end, on the defensive end, by either picking up fouls or putting them down on low posts or attacking them on pick and rolls, and all of a sudden that point guard's neutralized and they're out of the game, it makes a difference. And so I think coaches don't look at those matchups much, and they look at their team too much, but I do think matchups matter.
Okay, another comment I saw was that Tasmania now has to revamp its roster completely after this season. Thoughts?
Most ridiculous comment ever.
Why? Ever?
Why?
Yes.
Ever?
Yes.
Just for right now.
Yes.
It'll be another ridiculous one tomorrow. But they're injured.
Of course.
That's it. They got a lot of guys injured.
Yes,
bottom line.
Next roster should include perhaps Will Magnay, Sean McDonald,
maybe Majik Dang,
Anthony Drimmick,
yeah,
and maybe a new import of a better quality than, say, Ian Hummer or Craig Sword. I don't think you need much more than that there.
They were still winning with that group. They still won with Ian Hummer on the court. So, even though I would like an upgrade in that position, but no, they just need to get healthy. That's all.
And the other one that I really enjoyed, was when Brisbane beat New Zealand, who are done for the season. Some commentators were saying, hey, there's still a chance. They're still in the hunt for the top 6. That was that stage they had 15 losses. Shortly after that, they've had 16.
I think commentators got to say that because they got to sell it so that people show up at the next Brisbane game and watch it. But Brisbane's done. They're cooked.
Yeah,
they're not making the 6 this year.
Good. Thank you. So those are the ones
we can say that.
I wanted to cover off. Okay, now let's get to this other topic, which I find really interesting. And again, this was suggested by somebody who watches our show, that you go through the top 5 coaches and give us what you think their strength is and perhaps what their weakness is from a coaching standpoint. Okay, so I want to start with the teams in the top 5 positions right now. So that would be Justin Tatum.
It's really, let me first of all say, it's really hard to assess a coach that I've never coached against. It's really hard. For all you that watch coaches coach on TV and make comments, you're an idiot. You can't do it. All right, you got to be in that person's practice every single day and see what they tried to do for the entire year. Okay, you can have an opinion, but when you think your opinion is actually right or matters, that's when you're being an idiot. Because it's hard. I can watch Justin Tatum play. I can tell his team's well disciplined. They run great sets. They run great sets after timeout. They're attacking the areas they need to attack at. So I can see that.
Yep.
But for me to assess him, because when I coach against anybody, I'm trying to pull out their weakness.
Yep.
I'm trying to find that coach's weakness. So if they don't respond to that weakness, I go, I got them. Okay.
What do you think, if he has one, what is it?
It'd be probably really, really hard for me to say.
Okay.
If I, I couldn't see one.
All right.
They're winning games, the players are happy, and I see some great stuff ran on the court.
Okay. Dean Vickerman at Melbourne United. You've coached against him.
I coached against Dean. Now, Dean runs some great stuff. Dean runs some great stuff. After timeout stuff he runs, usually every 2 or 3 games, you're going to see another wrinkle or another set in there. Dean's going to fall into the same thing as any long-term coach in Australia. You guys just get tired of coaches.
Right.
After a while, y'all just get tired of him. Go, I've seen him enough. Let's get some new blood, some fresh blood. The rest of the world, and I mean the rest of the world, appreciates an older coach.
Oh, yeah.
So we think if they're coached for 20 years in America, man, they must be a great coach. You guys think coach for 20 years, let's get rid of them, it's enough. So that's what Dean's going to run into. He doesn't have any weaknesses on the court.
I did see him back in 1987 and 1988 when the Soviet Union team toured in Australia. Their coach was Alex Gomelsky, who was in his 70s, white-haired, and just those guys, and there were massive big players on that, like Sabonis and Marcellinus were all on that team. And they would, every word he had to say, any word he had to say, they were like attentive like little kids. So yeah, I take your point. We do that. We do think, oh, someone's getting a bit too old for the job. Which moves us to Sydney and Brian Goorjian.
I think Brian, this is the first time I've ever seen any weakness in Brian's coaching.
Right.
And I don't know if Brian's been able to control every single player that's ever been on his team for whatever reason. He does, his personality, being a national coach definitely helps. Okay. If you got guys that want to make the national team, not only they're going to respect when they play against you, but when they play for you, they're going to listen to you as well. So he's always had that in his bag. But this is the first time I've seen a couple players not respond to Brian the way they should. And that's more the player's fault than it is Brian. But it is the first time I've ever seen it.
Strength?
His strength is just his knowledge and his ability. He's been around forever. And, what he knows, like I said, I took a whole summer one time and studied him. So I have a really good feel for why he's good. And he's good. He's one of the greatest coaches that's coached here or anywhere.
Okay. Southeast Melbourne, Josh King?
I love everything he's doing. His discipline, if they ain't playing right, he's getting them out.
Yeah, I like that. It's coaching.
It's coaching.
Yeah.
It's coaching. It ain't no, you're my star. Let me massage you a little bit more and give you another quarter to get it right. You're my star, but you're not cutting it right now. Hey, bench guy, come in. His discipline there is really good. The stuff they run on the court. It's going to be really hard for a coach nowadays to run bad stuff on the court because it's too much visibility.
Yeah.
Like you can go look at EuroLeague games, you can go look at everything. Before, you used to have to beg for knowledge and go search and find it. And, I had VHSs and, that summer that I studied Gorge, it was VHS. Rewind, push. Like, so now you can click, you can grab your phone, sit in your car while you're waiting on your kid to come out of school and look at a set. So it's going to be really hard for people to run bad sets. But the discipline on the defense, the discipline, the communication, all that stuff is really well.
So you don't really see a weakness there, because I think he's also prepared to try things on the floor, which is, to me, the sign of a good coach.
Yeah, once again, I'm not, it's hard for me to go in there and see what his weakness is because, I'm not coaching against him. I would try some things and do some things and see how they respond to it.
Yeah. John Rillie at Perth.
Love John. So I personally know John as a person, but as a coach, I didn't know him at all. So I was sitting back waiting to see what he's going to do. I think probably his strength is his sets that he runs, his ability to get certain guys different looks. His weakness is probably his temper. Sometimes he seems to not have his personality, the personality that you see off the court. And that's just, that's a weakness for anyone.
Okay, because when they lost to Cairns in double overtime, which I thought was a great effort by the Taipans, because I felt pretty much a lot of that game they were playing against 8, not 5, and they still got the job done. I mean, he was sitting on the sideline there doing the Rodin, the thinker thing on the side, like posturing like a coach, but I didn't see him doing anything.
He has more personality, but just because you don't see it don't mean it's not being done.
No,
The reality of it is with most coaches, with the most of us, all right, you should do your work before you get there.
Absolutely.
And so when you get there, you're really managing and motivating and disciplining. A lot of the X and O's and what you should do in that game plan, all that stuff should be in place until something happens, and then you have to counter.
Next week we'll do the other 5 coaches in the NBL. Right now, what we've got here is there's some topics from fans, requests. Oh. This one's from Kieran Short, and he says, let's dig deeper into Adelaide. You blokes know stuff we don't. What or who does Adelaide need to get them all on track mentally and unity-wise? I think they're actually there.
I think
the players have merged.
They look great together. I don't see any of the little signs that we saw in the first half of the season with, Kendrick Davis. He does some well now. He was on the floor the other day. Everybody ran over and picked him up.
Yes.
He'd be on the floor at the beginning of the year.
No one goes. Someone would step over him and go and get the towel. Yeah.
He made some miraculous plays early, and no one even clapped for it. But now they're jumping up and down and pouring water in his head. So I think they'll come together.
Okay.
And we can't dig too deep because
I know
we'll find some lawyers down there.
Clunk, what is that? Oh dear. They play so well together, but they're just dumb decisions made time and time again, which the team must get fed up with. A classic example is Vasiljevic's hot hand the other week. Red hot, shooting threes from everywhere, even when they're banking in, and then he gets benched. That's just a crazy decision.
You can't play forever. I hear that comment all the time. Oh, he was doing this and then he got benched. He didn't get benched. At a certain point, physically, the player can't go anymore. They need a rest. Just let them rest.
Oh, honestly, I think I've got to disagree with you. Come on, man. When you're a scorer and you're hitting shots, you don't want to go off. You've got adrenaline. You're pumping. You don't want to go. That's
you're not wanting to go. But sometimes you need to go.
Okay.
Because if you compromise some offense and feeling good, knocking shots on the defense end, sit your ass down. So, and that's just typically what happens. A player starts getting hot and they stop playing defense. So, nah.
And he says, and the NBA is boring.
I agree.
Yeah, that's very hard to argue with you, Kieran.
I 100% agree. It's really hard for me to watch. Really hard.
Okay, we've got Arrhenius 1. He'd like us to talk about the commentators' quality or lack thereof, especially in Perth and Sydney. Do you want to take that one? Because in Perth, I think Annalie Maley is on the panel, and with all due respect to her, she's a fine player, but she's a lousy commentator.
I'll try to watch most of it with the music up and the voices down. I don't really need other people telling me what I'm looking at. I usually, honestly, turn the commentating down. And I put some nice background music on, and I watch the game.
Yeah, I'm the same. I hit the mute button when I just can't take any more. But I miss the sounds of the game. I miss that that shoe on the floor.
That's true.
You kind of miss that, and the crowd. The crowd will always tell you what's going on, even when the commentators don't know because they're in a studio somewhere, the same as we're at home, not seeing anything.
It has been a few times where I couldn't figure out what was going on those stoppages on the reviews and that kind of stuff. So, you kind of turn it up to get that, and I don't always get my answer.
Yeah.
I turn it back up to listen to commentators to get an answer. I don't always get my answer, but I think they're a necessary evil, but they're not for me. Yeah. They're for a fan. They're for the fans.
Here's a tip. This is what I do. I record the game, wait for half an hour, and then start watching it so I can skim through all the crap, and there's plenty of it. Should the NBL give up on the coaches' challenge due to inconsistent outcomes? We covered this on a previous show, so if you want to just go back, go to our homepage, go back, we've got that one covered. Does the NBL or the refs treat the coach of the Hawks more harshly than others? Again, this is something we covered a few weeks ago, so if you just go back to our homepage, you'll find that on there. Here's a good one. Should all commentators be forced to do a referee's course? I noticed that many junior clubs have their coaches do a course. Listening to commentators, talking heads, ex-players, ex-coaches make a fool of themselves by not knowing basic rules is embarrassing.
Well, I think we should get the referees to do a coaching course so they can see what we go through.
Sure.
So if they understand some of the decisions they make, how they influence us, maybe they would react a little bit different. When you're costing people games and you don't expect that coach to be upset with you, referees take a coaching course. I think they should do that.
I don't think the referee should be treated as the 11th team in the league, because refs, like teams, have a coach, there are players, everybody's involved, you're on the same page, you're trying to go towards the same thing. Referees, you just have the panel of three and a panel of three there. Well, I mean, I would think Scott Butler, someone in his role that was a past coach, someone like yourself, for example, or a Sean Dennis, or someone from the past, a coach being in charge of the referees and treating them like a team and saying, we want to be consistent about this. Wouldn't that be a better way to go?
Well, look, in this league, I think some more education from the other side and not just from the referee side. At some point, a referee supervisor decided to make the refs, take away their personality and be so professional, whatever. The refs, when I first coached in this league for the first 10 years and I played in it before that, the refs had personalities.
Yeah.
They had personalities. They would talk you down. They would talk you through it. They didn't give a shit who you were. If you were, you got a tech last game. I think Shields was probably the only one that would hold on to his stuff.
Good old Roger.
But the rest of them, they talk to you doing, hey, Joey, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but you need to shut up right now.
Yeah, Mal
to
Cooper,
me, that's
Ray
more
Hunt,
personality
Eddie.
than, hey,
Yep.
cut it, or whatever they do now. But I think having more personality would help.
Great story, I've got to tell you this one, was when Ray Borner was playing for North Melbourne Giants, and he's at a side ball, and Billy Mildenhall, the ref, is about to hand in the ball, and they call a timeout. And he turns to Billy and says, "Can I get a tech foul for what I'm thinking?" And Billy says, "No, of course not." He says, "Good, because I think you're an arsehole."
Did he get that?
No, that's how Billy reacted. Billy just laughed and thought, "Good, okay, you got me." That's nothing better than a good true story.
Yes.
Okay.
Weeksy, who was an amazing referee.
Jeff Weeks, love him.
Yeah, Jeff Weeks, and also had just a great personality. One day I'm on the sideline. I was coaching for Brisbane at the time against Adelaide. And I said to Weeksy, Weeksy, what the hell was that? And he looked at me and said, "Hey, I got to live here. You don't," and handed me the ball. I thought it was hilarious. So, he neutralized my anger right away with a really quick joke. But, even some of the refs, I used to tell them, I said, "Hey, we bet a beer on that. That was a wrong call." And, a week later, I'd see them in a hotel lobby somewhere and they go, "I owe you a beer. That was a wrong call." Or, "You owe me a beer." Wrong. That was it. And I go, "Yeah, you're right." I go, "I owe you a beer." But just having the personalities like that, I think is great.
You think that's been drummed out now?
It was drummed out at a certain point while I was coaching. It was one year where I felt that, and then the very next year I felt, what the hell is going on? The attitudes had changed. So it was one of those supervisors along the way to change that personality.
Well, the group prior to Scott Butler was that triumvirate of Mal Cooper, Ray Hunt, and Bill Mildenhall. Yeah. And I thought that was when probably the refereeing was the most consistent.
Most consistent. You knew exactly where you get.
Now you don't. And then you get Scott Butler, Mr. Personality, giving you an explanation that looks nothing like what you just saw, but okay, fine.
Yeah, explain that to me again. I saw something totally different.
Yeah. Should the NBL insist that all venues have reliable score bench equipment, looking at Cairns and Sydney?
Definitely. It's Wollongong and Cairns over the years of always, and even, to be honest, even Adelaide, when we're at the old arena. But Wollongong and Cairns, it's always something going on with that score clock. And more Wollongong than Cairns, but in Wollongong, I used to go there and it would always, probably once out of every 2 games, we had to sit around and wait for the score bench to get fixed.
What do you think will be the implications of the WNBL joining the NBL? I don't think they're joining the NBL, but Larry and the lady from the Sydney Kings will be owning it.
I think it's great. I think it's awesome. The marketing will obviously be better, and Larry will pump some money into it, so it'll look a lot better. It'll feel a lot better. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Should an essential requirement of any NBL venue be adequate air conditioning?
Oh God, everyone's getting soft. Well, don't they all?
I didn't expect you to say that.
Don't they all have?
Well, they're supposed to. Yeah.
Well, who doesn't? I don't know. I haven't been to all the venues, but they should.
Okay. And this one, I think we've kind of covered a little bit before, but how can the league raise the standard of referees? You get what you pay for in life, so is it a matter of making it worth people's while to be an NBL ref?
Well, I mean, I would never ref, but that's probably not a question for us. I don't think. Okay. I would never ref.
Well, I still think that if it was run like a team and you had a coach, not a referee, but a coach, a past coach. Oh, that worked in the past. It worked back in the early days when I think it was Terry Aston was coaching the referees panel, the NBL referee, and he was a coach from West Adelaide Bearcats at that time, and he got a point of that, and it was run much more coordinated like a group. They were all consistent. Okay, I think that might be the way to go. All right, we'll just have a quick look at the NBA in just a moment. All right, let's have a quick look at the NBA. We've got Josh Giddey and Josh Green that did pretty well in this particular round pass. Dyson Daniels is the Australian that's the highest polling for All-Star selection.
Yeah, he's been playing exceptionally well. And once again, I haven't had a lot of connection with Dyson Daniels at all. So to see him do so well is great.
Do you know Ricky Daniels?
I knew his dad. Yeah, I knew his dad, but that's it. Just knew the dad. Knew he had some boys that were really good, but never really seen him play junior basketball here. Never seen anything except when he come back and started playing for the Boomers.
Jimmy Butler, he's been suspended again. He just come back from suspension. I think this is his third suspension at Miami Heat, and this is sort of indefinite. Like, where does that end up?
He has a 3-year window, no matter where he goes. 3 years. After 3 years, he's going to be enough of an asshole that people want to get rid of him. So, just get rid of him. Leave, Jimmy. Go play somewhere else. There's another league for you. The NBA has enough talented players that they should not have to deal with the BS. Just move them on. Let them go play in Turkey.
Yeah, but I think when Latrell Sprewell was choking PJ Carlissimo, the coach, way back, and then still gets another gig, you're sort of going, okay, we will compromise our values and our morals for a player that we think is good.
Yeah, and I've seen that happen in this league with coaches as well, compromise their morals and values and take players that probably should have been out as well.
Oh, geez, do you want to elaborate before we go to a break and enjoy a little bit of 1946?
We do need to pour up one.
I think we do. We're going to take a break and we're going to pour ourselves a drink, pick the match of the round this week, and congratulate ourselves on getting Adelaide right, beating Sydney last week. Yeah. Well, this is the orange flavoured one, isn't it? This is
Have you had that with Fever Tree though?
No, I haven't. I haven't touched it since.
Have that with some Fever Tree. Fever Tree tonic. Mediterranean tonic.
Okay.
They have different ones, but get the Mediterranean one.
And 1946 Distilling, their gins are something special. I'm blown away by them.
Yeah, it's actually really good gins, and they actually complement and work with different foods in different ways. Like those chilies you gave me, what I'm gonna do with those is I'm gonna go to the cleaner gin, not the flavor gin. Go to the basic gin, and so that way I can taste your chilies more and and taste in the food more. But this one's a really good. I like to have with spicy or food that's really flavored. But the purple one to sit down and sip is really good as well for me. Have these with Fever Tree tonic, and these gins go off really well.
And you've got some great ones here: lemongrass and juniper gin, elderflower and chamomile gin. Jesus, saffron grape distillate, and Sapporo 500. Geez, there's some good stuff here.
So you're probably unaware, but I do make my own alcohol as well. Not near as good as this stuff, but in making my own alcohol, I know why their stuff is good.
Right.
Because they're a smaller distiller, they're able to filter this multiple times without it costing them a lot of money. If it's a big company and you're making tons of at one time, to redistill it again or filter it again, it's going to cost them too much money. So that's why you get the prices of the Belvederes and the Grey Gooses up there, because they go ahead and do that again. Well, they do this. This basic vodka right here has been, distilled a couple times and filtered a couple times, so it's just clean. There's not a lot of additives appeared in it, and it just drinks really well with no hangover the next day.
Oh, well,
that's
okay.
Well, if you drink enough of anything, you'll have a hangover, but you can get a lot of that down without it.
And check out Joey's still in his backyard there at some point. Okay, we're talking game of the week this week, and geez, there's some good ones. Are we going Perth, Southeast Melbourne? Sydney, Perth, or Southeast Melbourne, Adelaide? Which one? Which one?
I would like the Sydney Perth. I think that one's gonna. That one might mean a lot in the end of it. I think Sydney's gonna get this one.
I'm inclined to agree. I just have more faith in Brian than I do in John at the moment, because I don't think the talent is wildly different.
I don't think talent's wildly different, but I'm a lean towards Sydney on this one because I think Jalen Adams is starting to kick in a little bit more. I don't think they need Cam Oliver to beat Perth. Perth doesn't have a really big physical down low presence.
Yeah.
So I don't think they really need Cam Oliver to beat that. And they're not going to get much of Cam for the whole game. They might get some Cam appearances to show up.
Yeah.
I thought he did try to knuckle down and play Montrez straight up and play him, pretty tough. And I think he did a really good job for a couple possessions. But, at the end of the game, he's still out, and it's just really hard to play him because he's not playing with the same fever and attitude that he did before.
Yeah, I don't know. With Sydney, they've struggled to find a starting lineup that's consistent. And then I look at Perth, and I don't understand why David Okwiri is a good player, but why is he starting ahead of Keanu Pinder and just some of the moves that John makes?
Well, it's certain. For me, one, starting lineup is the most overrated thing in basketball, all right? And I could justify this for John. I don't know if this is the case, but sometimes you have players that focus is not great in the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game, and they pick up silly fouls. And so,
oh yeah, I've seen a lot of those guys.
Yeah, so you don't want to start them the first couple minutes of the game because they'll pick up 2 fouls before 4 minutes in the first half, in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you got to bench the guy and put him down, or he's not playing with the same intensity. So maybe you can save him a little bit because most of the time in the first 5 minutes of the game, the score is within 5 points in the first 5 minutes of the game. So it's not a blowout in the first 5 minutes. You can afford to have a player off that picks up those silly fouls and all of a sudden bring him in with 5 minutes to go, and now he gets through maybe halftime with 2 fouls versus 3. Yeah. So maybe that's what he's doing.
Okay, maybe that's what he's doing. All right. But we're both heading for Sydney, so next week we're either toasting or we're just having to give this to our production crew.
I think we'll be toasting.